Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers here on the East Coast of the United States of America. I want to welcome all of you from throughout the United States, Canada, and around the world who have been tuning in and watching our Thursday night broadcast, particularly focusing in on the crisis in Canada. Now, I just want to share with the Canadian people that if you didn't think there were any heroes left on this earth who are standing up for freedom and liberty, I'm going to introduce to you an extraordinary leader in a minute. A hero of freedom and liberty. And I've received some letters and emails from people who heard that she was coming on tonight, and the truckers in Canada and their family members want to extend their their gratitude for the fact that she had spoken up on behalf of freedom and liberty. Folks, it's 1 a.m. Where the Honorable Catherine Anderson is. I'm going to play for you just a 7-second video. Now, it's a little rudimentary here. We were unable to upload it on our computer, but we do have it on a cell phone. And I want to show you the extraordinary, courageous leadership of somebody who's standing up for freedom and liberty. So I'm going to play this for about 7 seconds, and then I'll introduce our guest.
It would have been more appropriate for Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, to address this House according to Article 144, an article which was specifically designed to debate violations of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law, which is clearly the case with Mr. Trudeau. Then again, a prime minister who openly admires the Chinese basic dictatorship, who tramples on fundamental rights by persecuting and criminalizing his own citizens as terrorists just because they dared to stand up to his perverted concept of democracy, should not be allowed to speak in this House at all. Mr. Trudeau, you are a disgrace for any democracy. Please spare us your presence. Thank you.
Boy, I'll tell you, folks, you talk about courage and leadership. Well, without further ado, I'd like to extend my grateful thanks to the Honorable Catherine Anderson and Honorable Member of Parliament of the EU. Thank you for joining us at this very, very early morning hour in your country.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, thank you. Well, obviously, you sent a very clear message to not only the Trudeau government, but to people who are in leadership positions around the world, that there are still people like yourself and others who are going to stand up for freedom and liberty. And man, I'll tell you you told it like it was. So how do you feel? People are asking, how do you feel right now with regard to what's happening in Canada? And you and I had a discussion earlier in the week when you said that the American people need to wake up too, because it's coming our way.
Yes, it absolutely is. And that's what's actually scary about this, because what we have seen in Canada is not only happening in Canada, it's happening in literally every single Western democracy around the world. And this is what's scary about this, because, if you had one country that kind of, where things go south, or, the democratic principles are no longer respected and adhere to, that's one thing. You have the rest of the world that can intervene and call them out. But if this is happening in every single country, every single Western democracy, this is scary, and it is happening in every Western democracy, and that's the scary part about it.
I received, I'd say for the first time since we've been addressing the issues in Canada, I did receive a couple of nasty emails. I'm sure you have too, from people. Yankee, go home, stay in your own country. What are you involved in our country for? Well, I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to ask you the question: why are you involved? And my answer is: look, at the Trudeau government has created what I believe to be a clear and present national security danger to the United States of America. So the people of Canada have been extraordinary the way they've handled themselves. No rioting, no beating police officers. It was the other way around.
Exactly.
So what a shining example of how to protest and do it within the framework of the law. So this is why I'm involved. I want to help the people in Canada because they're helping me and they're helping my country. And how would you like to weigh in on that with regard to what's going on in Europe?
Well, that is actually a job of a citizen He's supposed to fight for the democracy, the rule of law, and freedom, and everything that goes with it. I mean, once citizens start, basically just going to sleep, as I would put it, well, there is a saying, if you sleep in a democracy, you will have a rude awakening in a dictatorship, So, but in the Western democracy, especially, I would say it started maybe 15, 20 years ago. But in the last 10 years, even the last 6, 7 years, they really stepped up their game, So it's like we're seeing a lot of things where, and of course, it's always for the good of the people. They introduce some legislation, and it's all for your good, and we're the good guys. We want to do this for you because we really care about you. No, they do not care about us. They care only about themselves. Always package it very neatly, nicely. You have the fight against speech, and they want to fight fake news and all of that. The problem is, I mean, how do you define hate speech? So this is where it starts. And simply stating, for example, that an Italian is not a Frenchman, that is considered hate speech, because it's ridiculous, So fake news, of course, everything that is not along the narrative that they want is fake news, So you can present facts or whatever, and it's all made up. And of course, everyone, speaking against the narrative is right-wing extremist or a small French minority. It's all of that. So you get stigmatized, discredited. It's happening all over. Yeah.
They tend to demonize patriots. Now, we had something happen today in America where the Biden administration comes up with this idea, and I'm sure he got this idea from Canada, that they're going to set up an office that will monitor and define what is fake news on the internet. I mean, people's free speech. Now, who's in charge of that? The government.
Exactly.
So you are absolutely right. You got a situation in Canada where it's looked like it's going to take effect, and then the domino effect. And we've said that all along for many years about communism. We were afraid that the Communist Party ideology would be a domino effect, and we're seeing it here. What's extraordinary about what you did, you're probably at least to my knowledge, the only leader on this planet who stood up and just directly address this issue. A number of people are curious about your colleagues at the European Parliament. Question number one, I'm sure there's a lot of them that wanted to do what you did, but don't have the courage to do it. And secondly, agree with you, but simply won't stand up and state the case. Could you tell us about maybe some of the support behind the scenes you have?
Actually, I wasn't the only one that spoke up. There was a colleague of mine. He did basically the same thing. And then, of course, there was the colleague from Croatia, MEP Kola Susic, I think his name was. I keep forgetting. So anyway, he had regular speaking time on that issue. What I did, I had raised a point of order. That was the only way I could have spoken on that issue at all. And of course, I was aiming at him not to be allowed to speak to address us, which I never expected a majority to get behind me. But I only had 1 minute to basically get my point across, and I guess I used that pretty well. So. The thing is, yes, there is support. When you meet colleagues, walk down the hallway or whatever, you get a thumbs up or something like that. But it's a very, very few people. The majority of elected representatives, and it's not just in the EU Parliament, I would think it's pretty much in every democratic parliament around the world, they are more concerned with getting reelected. They're more concerned about not offending any of their colleagues, because they need their support when the next election comes up and stuff like that. So they actually have forgotten what their job is. They have forgotten who they were elected by, and they have completely forgotten what they were elected to do, which is to look out for the best interest of the people, to have their benefit in mind when they legislation pull up, or regulations, whatever. But they seem to have completely forgotten that. And plus, I mean, it's kind of it is a nice life, as a parliamentarian. So why should you raise any trouble there? If you get paid and people are all your friends and everything, it's a good life. But this is not our job, and they have completely forgotten that.
The European nations, I mean, you guys have gone through hell, I mean, throughout history, more so than America. I mean, look, we've all been involved in wars, but I find that in my country here, a lot of Americans are really unaware of the threat that we're facing. I mean, you all lived under pretty tough times back in the 40s, the 30s, and leading up to, the Cold War, and still beyond that. And
Right.
And I see a generation of Americans here who are just unaware of the threat of communism in our country. Ronald Reagan knew about it. I mean, he fought it. He brought down the help of the Europeans, the Soviet Empire. But what's happening now is, with broadcasts like this, and with you doing what you did, I really don't want you to underestimate the impact that you've had and are having to do what you're doing, as well as the way the Canadian people are handling it. I've gotten thousands of emails since we started this. I'm going to ask you to weigh in on something. They're heartbreaking. People are living in a free country. They feel threatened and scared and frightened for their children. And up until at least recently, when we really started to move along with this, they lost a lot of hope and needed encouragement. And after you did what you did and said what you said, I got to tell you that that barometer of hope, I mean, really, really lit up like a lighthouse, because the emails started to turn around and say, wow, people are listening and people do care.
Yeah.
So could you weigh in on that the subject of fear versus faith and courage? I think it's important for people to hear it from you.
Yeah. Well, this is how dictatorships work. You always tell people, you are all alone with your opinion. You are all alone. You got it all wrong. You're a small fringe minority. So what I tried to do, and actually what the Canadian truckers did for me, is they were there and they were doing this, and I was like, okay, this is what the people want. So it's kind of like it was not a one-way street, it was a two-way street, actually. So so when I can stand up on a world stage, which EU Parliament, it is a world stage, and can just confirm, I heard you and I know what you want, and I'm going to speak out from my position. So I've been told that I've given people hope, which is good, because people do need hope. But like I said, this is only part of the story. The other part of the story is that we too needed hope, we as parliamentarians. So, and we need the people to take to the streets. We need to show their governments we do not want to do this. And then, they can get the help they need by someone else speaking up, possibly, But like I said, that's their game, always making people believe that they're all alone and everyone else think they're stupid for saying that. No, we're not alone. We're actually quite a few people, but a lot of them have been scared into not saying anything anymore. I mean, over here in Germany, livelihoods are threatened. So you may use your license to run a business or whatever, especially with the whole COVID madness. When they shut down the businesses altogether, then they forced people, that the hospitals, stuff like that, they had to get vaccinated. So then they were told, well, we no longer have staff in the hospitals. And the public was told, well, yeah, the staff is not coming anymore because they're sick and tired of having to treat unvaccinated people. But it was the other way around. They had no staff anymore because they refused to get vaccinated for very good reasons. So this is now all kind of coming out, but people were actually, they they were kept in fear, and they had been told, if you don't do this, this and that is going to happen to you. And all the politicians over here, it was like, if you don't get vaccinated, you are out of the game. We no longer want you in our society. You don't belong to us anymore. We were called vermins. I mean, the worst things, So this does have an effect on people. And the thing is, yeah, that's happened before. And it was a time that all the Germans swore we would never, ever allow again. And all I have to say is, well, take a look around. It is happening again.
I read a story in the Bible this morning, the book of Nehemiah, where he went to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem with Ezra. Yeah. And he was threatened, right? He was threatened by Sanballat and by these powerful armies. And he went to God and he prayed. And the Lord told him, look, you got nothing to be afraid of. You just stand strong and be tough. And you just something interesting. You just said something interesting. We truly outnumber the other side. We outnumber those who are supporting the tyrants. So, and I think what they didn't expect, they meaning the Trudeaus of the world and the other tyrants and the communists that we're dealing with here in America, I don't think they expected people like yourself, those of us in America who's now partnering with the Canadians. And there are probably going to be more countries. I've heard from people from around different countries that want a partnership. And we're standing very strong together. And we find out that those who are, as you say, doing all the screaming and yelling and trying to instill fear into the people, it's the mouse that roared. They really don't have any teeth. They just roar, right? Like mice. Well, we're going to roar like a lion because we're going to take some action. In fact, the Canadians, a lot of the Americans watching tonight, after I let you go and get some sleep, I'm going to share with them that we're going to take an extraordinary action with regard to Trudeau, and I'll announce that a little later. But so here we are, okay? And you have been a great help. A tremendous help. And I just want to say God bless you. And do you have any final words you'd like to say before you get? I'm sure you got a busy day tomorrow. It's so late there. My goodness. Thank you again for joining us.
Well, all I want to say is, democracy is not a God-given. The rule of law and, fundamental rights, these didn't just fall out of the blue sky, on one fine sunny day. No, they had to be fought for. And that was luckily done, by our fathers and forefathers. And a lot of them actually spilled blood over this to leave us a world, where we can live in democracy, freedom. And we should not take this lightly. We should, appreciate this precious, very precious gift. But it also means you have to fight for it, because people are trying to take this away from us now. And they're so clever, about going about this. So, but we need to be strong, and we need to realize it is our democracy. It is our rights. It is our freedom. And no one is going to take that away from us. But we have to fight.
And your words have given a lot of strength to people this evening. Thank you, Honorable Catherine Anderson. Thank you. God bless you. And I hope to.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, folks, what can I tell you? If you ever thought there weren't heroes left in this world, you just saw one. And I've got to tell you, I know she probably would not want to be called a hero, but after hearing seeing what she did at the Parliament in Europe, boy, I tell you, she's not standing alone. She's got millions of people with her, behind her, and we're going to make sure that we get in touch with her again. Now, all right, so I'm going to answer a question that many of you have been asking tonight. We've been going over a lot of issues and problems with regard to the Canadian people. Well, we're going to begin to take action. We're going to begin to take decisive action. One thing good about my country here in the United States, we basically could do what we want and how we want to do it without worrying about the government, because they've tried in the past coming down on those of us who do what we want to do. It ends up that the courts side with us all the time. And so I'm not going to be concerned about what I'm about to announce to you. Now, we've gathered, I've got to tell you, hundreds and hundreds of videotapes have been sent to us, thousands of emails, and I've got to tell you, it's piling up left and right. So we're going to start a project here. It's going to be called Project Maple Leaf. And we're going to gather, we're calling right now, and consider this a call to people who are listening tonight. we put out the word, and we're going to put it out officially in a day or two, seeking the assistance of U.S. military intelligence officers and law enforcement investigators who are retired, who have knowledge on how to collect, gather, and analyze information and intelligence. We're going to start to do that, folks. Gather it all together, put it together, look at it, analyze it, and we're going to put together what we call Project Maple Leaf. It's almost like the 9/11 Commission report that we had here in America. And it's going to be all focused on the Trudeau government and the fact that they have been too cozy, in our view, based on what we're seeing with the communists. Now, why am I doing it? All right. People are asking me, well, why you live in America? Why are you doing it? Because we have to get people to understand, like the good and honorable Catherine Anderson just said, that what happens in one country could very well happen in another. And as far as I'm concerned, what's happening in Canada is too close for comfort for the United States of America. Our congressional representatives, our senators, and most politicians have no idea what's going on in Canada. They're too focused on their election. They're focused and should be focused on the southern border. But you see, we see the threat clearly on the southern border. Believe me, I've worked at FBI, National Joint Terrorism Task Force, worked in law enforcement, did it all, folks. We see the clear and present danger crossing our southern border. But what our elected officials and those in power don't see is the clear and present danger on our northern border. And I've got to tell you, folks, I've been waiting, just gathering piles of information coming to us from all sorts of sources. I feel that I've seen enough. And now's the time to take action. So what are we going to do with this information? Well, we're going to make sure it's credible, it's verifiable. We're going to put it together. And just like you see this here, like you see this, folks, I'm going to show you something. This is a regular book, right? See this? Well, this is how the final report, I hope, is going to look. Now, what are we going to do with the report? Well, we're going to do a few things. It's going to take a few months, but we're going to put it all together. Every single congressional representative in the United States, we hope to get that report. Every single congressional representative, every single senator. I want them to see and know and understand what is happening across our border. That's number one. Number two, we're going to publicize it. We're going to publicize it here in the United States, and we're going to publicize it worldwide. That's exactly what we're going to do, folks. We want everyone to understand what's happening here in the United States of America, as well as in Canada, and it could very well happen in their countries. You heard the Honorable Catherine Anderson say, we don't ever want this to happen again in Germany or anywhere in Europe, and I believe her. But I believe one of the problems that we're facing is education. Education and knowledge is power. And as I shared with the member of parliament we just spoke with of the European Union, that a lot of people just simply have no idea. They have no idea. Well, we're going to make it part of our mission. By the way, part of our mission of Campaign for America is to empower people, to educate people, to get people to understand what the political issues they are confronting today. There's no greater issue to me right now in this country, the United States of America, than to help the Canadian people overcome what they're facing through what I believe to be a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States of America, being led by Justin Trudeau. So now, these are our plans. I know it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be heartaches here and there. We're going to be in the valleys. We're going to be scratching our heads, but we're not going nowhere. We're going to make sure this job gets done. And I'll tell you something else, folks, that we're going to put out, if not tonight, like I said, tomorrow, the call for investigators. There are a lot of retired intelligence officers and investigators in law enforcement, in the military. They want something to do. They want to begin to give back to their country. So these positions that we're calling people to join are all volunteer. They know that. We've already got about a half a dozen people already have been in touch with us. And we're going to make sure that we do what must be done. We know how to analyze intelligence. We know how to collect it. We now know how to pull it all together and connect dots. And so the objective is to make sure that this gets to at least all of the American representatives here. But believe me, folks, if we have to go to Washington and sit with them, we will. I could tell you we've done it before on other issues. We will again. and we're going to make sure that what we have will be published worldwide. And I'm sure that what we have, when we put it together, we'll send it to, of course, individuals like the Honorable Catherine Anderson there in Europe. So if you think in Canada that you have not had impact on the world, if you think that you're alone, well, you're not alone. Believe me, you're not. And to the citizens who have sent me, I normally don't do this, but I just want to share with you how some of the things we go through, the threats and the bullying and all that. Well, you know what? We're not going nowhere. Yankee go home. Well, I am home. And why am I involved in this? I'm involved in this because we fight for freedom and liberty worldwide. What happens to Canada can happen here. What happens here can happen there. What these tyrants don't understand is that they lit a fire under us, folks. They put a fire in our belly. And, I look at these difficulties that we face, when we go through storms. And you think about this in your personal life. You ever go through a storm and say, why? My God, why is this happening? What's going to happen? Well, it's because of the storm that we are now going through, that the Canadian people have faced and that the American people are facing, that we have come together. So it backfired, Mr. Trudeau. It backfired members of the Canadian Parliament who are backing a regime, and I call it no longer a government, but a regime, the Trudeau regime in Canada, and getting very close to the Biden regime here in the United States. As I shared earlier, I couldn't believe my eyes when I read a press release that the Biden administration is suggesting that we should have. In fact, they're looking to set up an office that will actually pretty much monitor our free speech on the internet. And you know what, folks, that in this country is certainly unacceptable. In fact, here's what I tweeted out. I want to show it to you and then I'll read it to you. See, that's the new symbol of the tyrants of Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Biden and others around the world. Here's what I tweeted out. America, wake up, communism on the march. The Biden administration announced that listen to this, folks, disinformation governance board is being established to combat disinformation when? Think about this. When? In the 2022 midterm elections here in the United States. Why then? It's so revealing, isn't it? And to me, this is right out of the Communist Party playbook. They're so dumb that they revealed themselves when they actually put a time attached to what they're going to do, especially during an election for the United States Congress. So to the Democrats in America watching, you Democrats who are watching, I know you are, your party is doomed. Believe me, the president has actually put the last nail in the coffin of your party. Forget his administration, of your party. And if you think in any way, shape, and form that we, the American patriots who are fighting for this country, are not going to help and fight and partner with our Canadian brothers and sisters and friends in that nation, well, you're all wrong, because we're going to stick by their side. We're going into this together, and we're going to make sure that we're going to do everything we could so that when we, think about this, folks, when we reach that wonderful age that we're ready to sit under a palm tree somewhere in this world and write our memoirs and leave our legacy, we could tell our children in their time, you see that flag with the maple leaf? You see that flag with the stars and stripes? Well, those flags still fly very high and send a mighty message. And you know what that message is? Let freedom ring. God bless you all. See you Monday night when we address American issues. And then next Thursday night, we hope to have some more Canadian candidates who are running for office. So that's it, folks. CampaignForAmerica.com. That's our website. If you'd like to be put on our mailing list, please email me through the contact page, because we're sending out a lot of documents in the real near future. I'll keep you posted. Again, if you are an American citizen and we're leaving the investigators and the intelligence analysts to those who are here in America, because we know that it's tough for Canadians to do this, just email us and we're going to get together real soon and we're going to get the ball rolling. Okay, let freedom ring. God bless you all and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It's great to be, I'll tell you, it's great to be a Canadian today, and it's great to be an American. It's great to be free, for goodness sakes. Take care, and God bless you.